It was just past midnight when John Bell woke to the sound of heavy footsteps inside his bedroom. He reached for his lantern, but before he could light it, something cold brushed against his face. A whisper followed. A voice that wasn't human. "I have you now, John Bell." The lantern flared to life, trembling in his shaking hands. The room was empty. His wife, Lucy, still asleep beside him. And then the bed began to move. Not creak. Not shake. It lifted. John froze as the heavy oak frame groaned, dragging across the floor like it was being pulled by invisible hands. He shouted for his sons, but before they could reach the room, the whisper came again, louder this time. "I warned you, John Bell." The door slammed shut. The candle went out. Darkness swallowed the room whole. That night marked the beginning of one of the most disturbing hauntings in American history. The Bell Witch. But to understand what happened inside that Tennessee farmhouse, we need to go back to where it all began. It was 1817. The Bell family had just settled in the quiet town of Adams, Tennessee. They were good people, farmers, churchgoers, respected by everyone around them. John Bell, the father, had worked for years to buy his dream land, hundreds of acres along the Red River. Rich soil. Rolling hills. It should have been a blessing. But that land held a secret. One autumn afternoon, while hunting in the woods, John saw something impossible. A creature, half animal, half shadow. It stood upright like a man, but its body was covered in coarse black fur. Its eyes glowed faintly red, even in daylight. John raised his rifle, and in a blink it vanished. No sound. No tracks. Nothing. That night he tried to forget it. But as the family sat by the fire, they heard a faint scratching sound coming from the walls. Slow, deliberate, like fingernails dragging across wood. They searched the attic. The cellar. Every corner. Nothing. The next morning, his daughter Betsy said she'd heard it too. And that's when the knocking began. At first soft taps. Then louder. Always from different places, the walls, the ceiling, the floor. The family prayed. They kept a Bible open on the table every night. But the noises grew stronger. The dogs barked until their voices broke. Doors slammed shut on their own. The children's blankets were ripped from their beds. And then, one night, a voice spoke. At first, too faint to understand. But every night it got clearer. As if something was learning how to talk. "I am a spirit," it said. "I was once happy, but I'd been wronged." Lucy Bell dropped to her knees, trembling. John shouted for it to leave them in peace, but the voice only laughed. "Peace? You'll have no peace, John Bell." Soon, it began calling their names. Each one of them. Whispering from the dark corners of the house. By now, the neighbors in Adams had heard the rumors. They came to the Bell home to see for themselves. Some thought it was a hoax. Others believed it was the devil. But when they arrived, they didn't laugh for long. They heard the voice. They saw objects move on their own. Some claimed they felt invisible hands slap them across the face. And the spirit didn't hide. It performed. It spoke clearly in a woman's voice. "I am the Witch of Kate Batts," it said. "You know me, John Bell." Kate Batts. The name struck fear through the room. She had once been a neighbor of John's, a woman who believed he had cheated her in a land deal. Before she died, she had sworn revenge. Now her spirit seemed to be keeping that promise. John tried to deny it. He wanted to believe there was a logical explanation. But how could anyone fake what was happening inside that house? The voice knew their secrets. It mimicked their friends. It sang hymns and quoted scripture. And through it all, it never stopped tormenting John. Days turned into weeks. The witch grew stronger. And young Betsy Bell became her favorite target. The spirit would pull her hair. Slap her face. Leave red marks that no one could explain. Lucy tried to protect her daughter, holding her close in bed. But one night, the witch's voice hissed from the shadows. "I will kill John Bell. And no one will stop me." Lucy screamed. The house shook. And then, silence. As the haunting grew worse, even the townsfolk who came to help weren't safe. When the pastor came to bless the home, his Bible was ripped from his hands and thrown across the room. When friends stayed overnight to witness the haunting, they were slapped awake in the dark. And yet, sometimes, the witch was calm. Gentle, even. She sang church hymns. Quoted verses from the Bible with perfect memory. Spoke kindly to Lucy. It was as if two voices lived in one body, one good, one evil. But John knew better. Whatever it was, it wanted him dead. Then, one stormy night, everything changed. The rain pounded outside. Thunder rolled across the sky. John sat by the fire, exhausted, his sons beside him. Suddenly, the front door burst open, though there was no wind. The fire went out. Darkness filled the room. And from that darkness came the voice, louder than ever before. "John Bell, your time has come!" A violent crash shook the house. Plates shattered. Chairs toppled. The children screamed. John tried to move, but something heavy pressed against his chest. Invisible hands holding him down. He couldn't breathe. "You will not see the spring," the witch roared. "I swear it." Then silence. The weight lifted. The house went still. John's sons helped him up, shaking. The witch was gone. But her words echoed in his mind. "You will not see the spring." That night, John couldn't sleep. He sat awake until dawn, staring into the darkness, listening to that faint whisper crawling through the walls. "I warned you, John Bell." The next morning, something strange caught his eye. The small medicine bottle he always kept beside his bed looked different. The liquid inside was darker. Thicker. He asked Lucy if she had changed it. She shook her head. No one in the family had touched it. By the time anyone discovered what was in that bottle, it would be too late. The next few days were eerily calm. The Bell family woke to quiet mornings, no knocking, no whispers, no laughter in the walls. For the first time in months, there was peace. But peace in the Bell house never lasted long. One afternoon, John Bell's son found the strange medicine bottle still sitting by his father's bedside. The liquid inside was thick, black, and unfamiliar. No one knew where it came from. When John asked his wife and children again, each swore they hadn't touched it. And then, from nowhere, the voice returned. "Don't touch that bottle," it warned. "That belongs to me." The entire family froze. The voice came from the empty air. John reached for the bottle anyway. The witch laughed. "You don't believe me, do you? You'll see soon enough." That night, John Bell fell violently ill. He couldn't move without pain. His vision blurred. His speech slowed. The family sent for doctors, but no medicine helped. No prayer worked. And through it all, the voice never stopped whispering in the dark. "I told you, John Bell. You will not see the spring." Words spread fast through atoms. Visitors continued to flood the Bell home. Neighbors, travelers, even ministers who wanted to test the haunting themselves. Each one left terrified. Some said the witch answered their questions before they even spoke. Others claimed it followed them home, whispering their names at night. The witch's voice wasn't just in the Bell house anymore, it was spreading. Even the townsfolk began to talk about it as if it were a living person. Some feared her. Some respected her. Others tried to speak to her directly. And when they did, the witch responded. She could recite entire sermons, mimic voices perfectly, even describe things happening miles away as if she was there. She seemed to know everything, and everyone. But she never stopped tormenting John Bell. His health worsened. His hands trembled. He often sat in silence, staring at nothing, as if the witch had already taken part of him. The family tried to stay strong, but the haunting grew crueler by the day. Betsy, the youngest, continued to suffer the most. No matter where she went, the witch followed her. If Betsy laughed, the witch mocked her. If she cried, the witch howled with joy. One evening, when Betsy went walking near the river with a boy she liked named Joshua Gardner, the witch's voice erupted from the woods around them. "No happiness for you, Betsy Bell!" it shrieked. "You'll never marry him!" The trees shook. The air went cold. Betsy fainted. When she woke, she refused to speak of it, but she broke off her courtship that same week. From that day forward, the witch watched her constantly. As the months passed, the haunting grew infamous across Tennessee. Travelers claimed to hear the witch's voice on the roads near the Bell property. Animals were found terrified, refusing to enter the fields. Even local preachers began to warn that something unholy lingered in those woods. And yet, some nights, the witch would soften again. She'd sing sweet lullabies to Lucy Bell. She'd talk kindly about heaven and faith. She even once said, "Lucy is the best woman to ever walk this earth." But every time she spoke kindness, it was followed by hatred. And always, that hatred was for John Bell. "I'll see you dead, John Bell," she'd whisper. "And then I'll leave." By winter, John's body had grown weak and frail. He could barely rise from bed. One cold morning, Lucy went to bring him his usual medicine. But the bottle by his bedside was empty. A bitter smell filled the air. John lay still, unresponsive. Panicked, the family sent for a doctor. As the physician arrived, the witch's voice echoed through the room once again. "I gave old Jack Bell his last dose. Don't bother with your medicine now." Everyone froze. No one could see her, but everyone heard her. The doctor picked up the empty vial and sniffed it. His face went pale. Inside was a dark, unknown liquid that burned the throat just by its scent. Lucy demanded to know what it was. The witch laughed again. "It's something I made myself. He's mine now." John Bell was buried not long after. The day of his funeral, people from miles around came to pay respects. As the preacher tried to begin the ceremony, the witch's voice cut through the silence. It laughed. It sang drinking songs. It mocked the mourners until they fled in tears. For years afterward, the Bell Witch remained one of the most feared tales in America. Even after John's death, the voice didn't vanish immediately. It lingered, promising to return. 7 years, it said. "In 7 years I'll come back." And it did. When it returned, it visited John's sons, calmer this time, almost reflective. It spoke of faith, of forgiveness, of things beyond this world. Then, as suddenly as it had come, it disappeared. Some say the witch moved on to other families. Others believe she still lingers in the hills of Adams, Tennessee, whispering through the trees when the wind blows just right. But those who live near the old Bell property still say that sometimes, late at night, they hear it. A faint voice, soft and cold, carried through the darkness. "I warned you, John Bell." And then silence. Years had passed since the death of John Bell. The old farmhouse stood quiet again, surrounded by the same red fields that once echoed with screams and whispers. The Bell family tried to rebuild their lives, but something about the land had changed. The animals refused to go near certain parts of the property. The air was colder there. And sometimes, even years later, Lucy Bell said she could still hear soft humming in the halls at night. The witch had kept her promise. She said she would return in 7 years. And when that time came, she did. It was 1828 when strange things began happening again. This time, it wasn't violence. No shaking walls, no screams, no slaps. It was quieter. More deliberate. One night, John Bell Jr. heard the familiar voice calling his name. It didn't sound angry anymore. It sounded calm. The voice spoke for hours. It talked about the past, about faith, about eternity. It spoke of things no one could understand, about life after death, about the meaning of suffering, about heaven and hell. The witch told John Jr. that she would leave soon, but would one day return again, far in the future. Then the voice faded, disappearing into the still air of the old house. And that was the last time the Bell Witch was ever heard in Adams, Tennessee. At least, that's what people said. Decades later, the Bell farmhouse was abandoned. The walls rotted. The fields grew wild. But travelers still came. They came because of the stories. People from all across the state spoke of hearing the same strange things near the old Bell property. Whispers in the wind, voices calling out from the trees, and the faint sound of a woman's laugh drifting through the night. Some swore they saw a figure in white walking along the riverbank where Betsy once played as a child. Others claimed to see candlelight glowing in the windows of the old Bell home, even though it had been empty for years. And still, the name lived on. The Bell Witch. Her story spread across Tennessee, through newspapers, books, and later, radio. She became more than a ghost, she became a legend. Even President Andrew Jackson, before his presidency, was said to have visited the Bell home during his time as a soldier. He wanted to see the witch for himself. According to witnesses, as Jackson's men approached the property, their wagons suddenly stopped moving. The wheels froze solid, even though the horses strained with all their strength. And then, a voice spoke from the empty air. "You can go on now, General. I'll see you tonight." The wheels began to move again. Jackson ordered his men to leave immediately. He never returned to Adams. As the years passed, the Bell Witch became part of American folklore. But to the people of Adams, she was never just a story. Even now, locals speak of her as if she still lingers there. They say that if you visit the old Bell Witch cave near the original Bell property, you can still hear her. Sometimes, it's the faint sound of a woman's voice. Sometimes, it's a handprint in the dust. Sometimes, it's just the feeling that you're being watched. Tourists who visit the cave often report the same thing. Their lights flicker. Their cameras fail. Some feel a sudden rush of cold air, like something unseen has just brushed past them. And when they turn around, nothing is there. But everyone who leaves that place says the same words. "She's still here." Over 200 years have passed since the Bell Witch first tormented that Tennessee farmhouse. No one knows exactly what she was. A vengeful spirit? A curse born from guilt and greed? Or something else entirely, something that defies explanation? Every generation has its own version of the story. Some say she was never real at all. Others believe she was more real than any of us. But one truth remains. Whatever haunted the Bells, whatever whispered their names in the dark, it changed their lives forever. And even now, when the wind blows across the old Bell fields, some say you can still hear her voice. Soft, cold, eternal. I warned you, John Bell. The Bell Witch. A name that began with a whisper in the dark and became one of America's most terrifying legends.